allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Corey,
Here.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Here.
Commissioner Schlossberg,
Here.
Commissioner Sievem, Vice Chairman Watts, and Commissioner DePauw and Chairman Gray are absent.
And do we have any speakers for call the public? Oh, hang on, we got to approve the minutes first.
They're not listed on the agenda.
I see them, but I thought we had minutes from the previous one, or did we not?
They weren't.
We already approved those.
They weren't ready. They weren't ready from the verbatim transcriber. Yes. Next meeting.
And we'll go back to call to the public.
No chair.
No speaker cards. So we get 2 sets of minutes next time.
Yes, Chair.
On a property located at 16622 East Avenue of the Fountain. And John, all yours.
Good evening, Commissioners. Welcome this evening. Got several fun items for you to consider this evening. The first is a special use permit to allow residential use in a commercial zoning district. This is just across the street here from Town Hall in part of Plat 208. The area is zoned C2 with the entertainment, E, with the planned shopping plaza, the PSP overlay districts. They'll each allow kind of some different activities to happen within the C2 district. This area was platted in 1971. This lot was developed sometime in late 1982. It was developed as an office building with 8 office suites. Currently 4 of the units on the back of the property have been converted into hotel rooms. The zoning district allows for residential use on the 2nd floor by right and up to 8 dwelling units per acre. The request for the SUP, so they want to turn the 2 hotel units on the ground floor to apartments, so that requires a special use permit, but also with the increase in the number of units, it exceeds the 8 dwelling units per acre. So for both of those reasons, they have requested the special use permit. So again, this is the area. The mostly C2 zoning in the area, a little C3. We have the Keystone PAD and the Town Center District a little to the east. And the basic land use pattern in the area. I have the Town Hall campus here, the post office across the way. There's some residential mixed use with the Park Place, otherwise primarily office and commercial activities. The general plan has a number of statements that we feel are applicable to the request. We are looking for a variety of housing options in the town and encouraging a wide range of housing types that address different needs that the community may have. And then in the town center area, looking for an integrated mix of uses to provide for a vibrant town center area. The zoning ordinance with regard to special use permits, you've seen this a lot lately. Section 202 F1D sets forth the criteria that the Commission is supposed to take into consideration in granting approval of a special use permit. Highlighted the key phrase there that the proposed SUP will not be detrimental to public health, safety, peace, comfort, welfare of persons residing or working in the neighborhood, and such use will not be detrimental, injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood or the general welfare of the town. So looking at each of those phrases individually, will the proposed residential use be detrimental to public health, safety, peace, or comfort of the neighborhood? The reuse of this building for residential purposes is unlikely to have a detrimental impact, we feel, on the neighborhood. 3 more, 5 residential units in the area, we don't would have that type of impact. Will allowing residential use of this property to be detrimental to current commercial property or commercial property improvements. The existing urban environment lends itself really to providing this type of a mix of uses and allowing the residential mix. Having additional residents in the area can help provide customers for the retail and entertainment, as well as potential workers in those businesses. We're aware of and working with Plat 208 in some potential conflicts that could happen there. The Plat 208 area wasn't really set up to allow a lot of residential use in the way the parking's laid out, and without specific designated parking. And also the way the solid waste is handled works fine for commercial, may create some challenges for residential, but those are things that we're aware of and think we can work through. And then we'll allowing the residential use create a desirable living environment that supports the general welfare of the town. Again, we're looking at an urban living environment that does typically mix those uses. We have other examples within the Plat 208 area itself, as well as across the street with a Park Place development with the ground floor commercial and upper floor residential. We feel like, again, this is workable in this area, helps bring that balance of housing and commercial needs. We have the walkable streets and amenities in this area that make this an appropriate use. The applicant is required to provide a good neighbor statement with a special use permit, and so that was included in your packet. They will work to be responsible, considerate neighbors, and provide proactive communication if there are any concerns. They did hold a citizen participation process and seek input from the surrounding property owners. They had no one attend their specific meeting. We did receive an email supporting it, bringing up some questions about the integration of uses, and that was included in an email to you after you received your packet, so you've had that. So in summary, we feel like the proposed request meets the requirements stated in the zoning ordinance. We'll provide additional support for downtown businesses, provide a variety of housing options. Therefore, staff does recommend approval. Any questions of me?
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Corey?
The applicant is available for a presentation, yes.
John, with Shea and the development across the street, he wanted the last time through to have all residential, if I remember right. And I believe we held that he had to have retail on the first floor. Is that correct?
Vice Chair, Commissioner Kovacevic, he did submit a request for an amendment to the DA to eliminate the requirement that ultimately was dropped. We didn't ultimately get maybe a firm answer to that question because he withdrew the request. I don't remember at this point what the P&Z Commission had said about that proposal at the time.
So does he or does he not have any first floor residential?
In this building, there will still be first floor residential facing the street with this request.
Yeah, but Shea does not.
So his proposed building does have ground floor retail.
Facing the street?
Yes.
Shea does?
Yes. Yes. The building that's proposed but not built yet, that's the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Building E does. Building F does not, but it wasn't required to.
Okay. And this proposal also has first floor residential facing the avenue?
Yes, it keeps the two suites on the first floor along the avenue as commercial.
What? I'm confused.
I think if you go back to the slide, I think the slide is misleading at the very beginning. That's because I think it's written wrong, because the two suites are going to remain commercial, and I believe what it says is, unless I read it wrong, is just, two dwelling units on the first floor. That's not correct.
Oh, there will be two on the first floor. I guess I did leave out a piece, because there are 4 suites on the first floor. 2 in the back will be residential, and 2 in the front will be commercial.
That was my question.
Yes.
So the ones on the parking lot will be residential.
Correct.
But the ones on the avenue will be
Correct.
commercial.
Yeah, sorry for that confusion. I left that out.
That's my question. Is there, okay, that's good. That's it.
Commissioner Schlossberg, did you? That was it? Okay. John, I see that the recommendation is somewhat based upon section, Plat 208 and cooperating with the trash enclosure and the parking spaces. What do you think the success of that will be, considering how difficult 208 is going to be, or has been?
Vice Chair, in our discussions to date, we really don't see any significant issues. In my discussions with the members of the board for Plat 208, they're not seeing this as a challenge. They really think everything has pretty well been worked out, particularly with the parking. The trash is the last thing. That's why I did include that in my staff report to make sure we do have that ironed out before we get to issuing a building permit.
Okay. And then as I read this, it's for a total of, is it a total of 5 residential units?
Correct.
In
2 down
both
and 3 up.
buildings? But it's not 8, because somewhere there was
Right.
reference to.
Right. There are 8 dwelling units that are allowed. There are 8 office suites currently. 4 down and 4 up, I believe is correct. Currently, there are 4 office suites down, 4 office suites up.
Right.
On the ground floor, they're already converted 2 of the office suites to the hotel, and those will become residential. The other 2 office suites on the ground floor will stay commercial. On the upper floor, they've got the 2 hotel units that will become residential, and the other 2 office suites are combining into 1. So there'll be 3 suites upstairs, 3 residential upstairs, 2 down.
Okay, total of 5 residential, still
Yes.
2 commercial
Correct.
facing the avenue.
That's correct.
Okay. Then this is my questions. Commissioners, any other questions?
Yeah, I'm seeing one more. So this is the equivalent of 36 dwelling units an acre.
Yeah, right. It's a small
And
lot,
the
so-
most intense multifamily residential zoning that we have in our ordinances is 25?
I believe that's correct.
And we've made exceptions for, on the other side of the street.
Correct.
We've made an exception at the
Right.
Target
Those
Center.
are up
But
at 45, yes.
the ordinance, so is he doing I'm used to PUD. What's our term for it?
PAD?
PAD, yeah.
Right,
Well, he's not doing a development, so there wouldn't be a PAD.
right.
Okay, but he's 10 units an acre above our maximum in zoning intensity.
Correct.
For multifamily.
Correct.
Okay.
But John, along those lines, the assumption is that there's be available space in the parking area that is governed by 208.
That's correct. Actually, the
correct?
parking demand is less for residential than we would calculate for the commercial.
Right.
And so, all those things are already handled. The office suite tenants have used the parking lots. They've used the solid waste containers and so forth. So it's just a different type of user using the same things that are there. Again, with the solid waste, residential use of those is maybe a little bit different, a little bit more intense potentially.
Right.
And so that's why I had a little bit more concern there.
John, so how is the parking arrangement going to be worked out? I mean, you said there's some discussion going on. What's your idea of how this is going to be resolved?
Vice Chair, Commissioner, the applicant can maybe explain some of that a little bit better on the details. But part of the issue is traditionally they have not allowed overnight parking.
Yeah.
You have a residence, you can have overnight parking. Residents sometimes want to have guaranteed parking spaces close by to their door, and they're not going to be able to do that. So those are just things that the tenants are going to have to understand as they move in.
So there's no exceptions that are going to be provided with that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
John, how about the exception for covered parking? I thought residential
okay.
required covered parking.
Vice Chair, I'm glad you were thinking about that. That is something that we have discussed as staff, and whether or not we should somehow address that in these types of requests. Given that everything is already built and that the person asking for this request doesn't own the property with the parking requirement where the parking is, we chose not to pursue that, but that is something if the commission felt strongly about, because today, as you know, with the change to the parking ordinance, we do require covered parking for residential. We also required covered parking for office. And so if an office were to change out, are we going to now require them to put in covered parking for the office? Again, given the ownership of the parking is different than the ownership of the buildings, that'd be a pretty tough request. So we felt like we didn't need to pursue that.
Okay.
Rick, one other thing. So this has been used as a boutique hotel.
Correct.
And hotels don't require covered parking.
No.
So we're still in a residential, a longer-term residential situation, and the covered parking requirement kicks in.
Right. That's a new requirement that's just been in place for less than a year.
Pardon?
That's a new requirement that's just been in place for less than a year.
Okay. So if it was rented every night of the year, it would be very similar to having an annual tenant in there anyway.
Mhm.
So, thanks.
Commissioners, any other questions, or can we hear from the applicant? Let's hear from the applicant, please. All yours.
Chair, Vladimir, commissioners, Vladimir, and this time I'm operating a hotel boutique, and I'm looking to convert to 2 bedrooms, 2 bath condominiums.
Excuse me, can you
And,
speak into the mic because the audience is having a hard time hearing? Thank you.
My name is Vladimir Buer. I'm the resident of Fountain Hills for the past 30 years. And I'm operating a hotel boutique at the 16622 East Avenue of the Fountains. And I'm asked the commission to support my project in conversion to condominiums. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Commissioners, go ahead.
Is this a condominium that you're developing, or are these going to be
At this
rental
time-
units, or are they going to be sold?
Some of it we're gonna own and continue operate, and some would be sold because there's an interest.
So would they be sold to owner occupied, or are they being
Owner-occupied.
sold for vacation rentals, or
Owner occupied or vacation rental.
is there any preclusion of that in the zoning?
Vice Chair, Commissioner, there's not a preclusion of that. They would have to go through a platting process to create the separate ownership possibility.
I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
They'd have to go through they'd have to plat it as a condominium. There'd be that
For
step
the
to go
condo.
through, but that would be possible.
But there would be no restrictions from a VRBO versus full-time resident?
No.
And John, would that be, before you run away, would that be a special use permit and as an overlay and would stay with that owner? Or how would the transition be when it had to go through zoning change?
So, Vice Chair, I would probably have to think through that a little bit, maybe examine the zoning ordinance a little bit. It's the first I've heard about that idea of them being sold separately and then possibly used for a short-term rental. But any residential unit through state statute can be used as a short-term rental. And so we have limited control there. And particularly in a C2 district where a hotel is a use by right, again, I don't think there would be anything that we would have to control that.
Okay.
I guess my question is what, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If you're not going to be selling or leasing to longer-term tenants, why are you changing the process? Why are you changing the use of it, the current zoning? I guess I don't understand why you're changing from a hotel, because that's effectively what a BRBO can be looked at.
From the investment, we like to sell couple and continue ownership of couple.
Okay.
Commissioner Corey?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I think what you're saying is you're trying to transition that to ownership of the new occupant versus you owning it and managing all of that. So I understand that. Vladimir, how long have you owned the property for?
I purchased in June of 2022.
Okay. Okay, so it's fairly recent. I heard something come up about parking. So with the way that you've been running it lately, has parking been an issue? Has any of the renters complained that there wasn't any parking or any lack of parking?
We have 2,000 parking spaces for Plot 208 we're supposed to share.
Okay, so
So
no.
there is no designated parking space per se.
Right. But they seem to have been able to find something that was available there.
Always available, especially in the evenings.
Okay. And I had a chance to go and look at the property this afternoon too, and there is a lot of parking there, so that wouldn't be a concern. Okay, thank you. I think that, you know, I am definitely for this one, and I think that the important thing to note here is this really does balance out what we have across the street over at Park Place. You know, we're looking at the same exact thing. So I think when we can look at doing this across the street, it makes sense. I don't think density is an issue. The infrastructure can support it. I don't think there's gonna be any traffic issues since we already use this way, and there's no environmental impact. So I'm definitely for making this change and approving this for Vladimir. So just, that's my take on it.
Any other comments, commissioners?
Yeah, I'll follow up on Commissioner Corey. I visited the property as well, and inside and out, and not that this has to do with P&Z, but I mean, these units are spectacular. The ones that are there already. I mean, I was very impressed. So assuming the new unit on the second floor is going to be as nice as the ones, well, on the other side, very well done, and I think it's a nice compliment. I didn't even know what the Belvedere was, to be honest with you, until I went and visited this property. So I think it's a good value add for the avenue for sure.
So I think I have a tendency to agree. My only thought was the parking is normally the parking wouldn't be an issue unless we have an event. And when I think about the fairs and so on, so how are you going to manage parking spaces that are not dedicated, because you just said they're open to anybody, anytime, anywhere? How do you protect those parking spaces for the
Usually,
residents?
when we have events, and we had several of them, and usually the property owners designating some parking space in front of their buildings for customers only. For example, the restaurants are doing it, and I didn't do anything this year yet, but we have an event coming up. So therefore, I'm gonna, and I spoke to Betsy about that, chamber, and she supports that too, because that's the previous experience and working relationship between the chamber, the art project, and property owners and business owners.
Okay. Any other comments, commissioners? Okay, Paula, do we have any speaker cards?
We do. We have 2 written cards, 4 that support the project, and then we have 4 speaker cards, and I'll name them in order. Joel Schaefer, up to the podium, please. And then behind Joel will be Jared Sternes.
Thank you. My name's Joel Schaefer, and I'm a 22-year resident of Fountain Hills. My business background is mostly in golf operations. I was the general manager at Sunridge Canyon Golf Club from 2003 to 2010 and managed some other golf courses in Scottsdale and Mesa. The last 5 years, I've been in real estate and property management, and I am here to support the project at the Belvedere. I think it's a perfect blend of residential and commercial, and serves a purpose on the avenue. The 4 existing suites are, as Scott mentioned, they're beautiful. Clayton, you've seen them. Beautiful, very well done. And I think it's, again, a perfect complement to what the essence of the avenue. By converting, rezoning, it gives Vladimir the option to sell off some of those suites as condominiums, which, as a developer, you always want to have that option. And my involvement is I am helping with the real estate aspect along with the rentals, and they are serving as furnished vacation rentals now, and people are enjoying them thoroughly. Behind the property, again, there's so much parking. I've been a resident a long time, been to the parade, been to the Thanksgiving parade, and the art festivals, and I personally have never seen an issue with parking. I always am able to get a parking spot back there. So again, I'm here in support of rezoning from where they're at now to residential, and giving Vladimir his options as a developer. Thank you.
Hello, Commission. My name is Jared Stearns, and I just wanted to voice my support to transition the boutique hotels to residential. I might voice a unique opinion on that. I am the one who currently leases the commercial space down below, and just wanted to voice like the parking situations and everything. With it being a boutique hotel several months now, we haven't had an issue with parking. You know, there's been parking on the avenue, there's been parking in the back, but overall, there's not been an issue that we have to go talk to people or anything like that. And I do believe Vladimir, as the owner and the developer of that, has done a good job of telling the people and directing them what to do. So, but again, just wanted to voice my support for it and show that, you know, the person actually renting the commercial space. And I'm glad you made that clear. I was like, are they transitioning that front to residential? Do I need to worry? So thank you for that. But been no issue there, and I think it's been done great. So thank you.
Next speaker is Centaur. Did you want to speak? Oh, okay. Larry Myers.
Chair, Commissioners, Larry Myers, 43 years. Predate most of the stuff that's built on the avenue. So my question got answered by Vladimir. I'm a proponent of condos. I'm not a proponent of rentals, so to speak, overwhelming the town with them. Condos are ownership. Rentals the town receives nothing from because we're no longer going to get a sales tax revenue. The short-term rental thing, you know what? If you own it, you get to do with it what you want. And you can do it in a house, you can do it wherever you want to do it, so that's fine. As long as you keep the commercial on the first floor on the avenue, like we made Mr. Shea do when he didn't want to do it. He's acquiesced, and he has commercial on the first floor. It's provides everything that everybody always says they want, walkability. If you want to put an apartment somewhere, put it in downtown Fountain Hills instead of in a shopping center on Shea Boulevard. I do look further than the end of my nose, though, when I examine things. And what if more people wanted to do the exact same thing down the avenue? Then what happens to the parking? Because Fountain Hills has a history of looking right here, just like they did in 1999 when they built a defunct shopping center instead of a corporate headquarters. And now you have what you have, a big fight amongst residents. And so I look at this avenue and I say, okay, upstairs, if I owned the next building down, would I want to do it? And then what happens to the parking? And then what happens to the trash? And then what happens? So I would prefer to look a little further down and maybe think about those things in the grand scheme of the entire district, as opposed to, it's fine for Vladimir's one building. What about the guy next door, and then the guy next door to that, and the guy next door to that? Because I can guarantee you it'll be coming. Because if you don't fill the commercial suites, then you got to make money as an investor. It's your property. So I would prefer a little further discussion down the road, but I'm in favor of this. It works just as good as Bart Shea across the street. Thanks.
Next speaker, Daniel Kobe.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Kobe, and I'm familiar with the building, and I think it's a quality project, and I would support it because it adds value to the town of Fountain Hills. And there's a shortage of a need for residential, and it's a quality project, and I see it as being adding value to Fountain Hills. I don't think there's any issue that it's not a quality project. Those that have visited have acknowledged that, and I think it's important for the town of Fountain Hills to support the residents that are living here, enjoying the benefits of Fountain Hills. And you have to go so far out other than Fire Rock, which is very high end, which is a great asset to have for Fountain Hills, but for a practicality, and especially because when you think about what's taking place at the Fountain Hills, is did a very smart thing with the new observatory that's coming in here. That's going to be bringing people from all over the world here. You're going to have people interested in the space. You're going to have NASA officials, people that are very interested in astronomy and things, and it's an educational opportunity. So many people are going to take advantage of it, and they need a place to stay, high quality. And when you're short of a high quality, you want to support it as being directors of this community. And I'm proud of what you're doing, and I think it's a good idea. So if you have any other questions, I love Fountain Hills. It's a great city up here, and I'd like to see more cooperation with the residents here, to be perfectly candid with you, and the businesses, because this here is going to be a landmark location throughout the United States, and you've worked hard to develop what you have here already. The fountain is great, good operation, and people come from afar to come here to visit it. So I think when you support the community, making things available to the people that want to enjoy what you have here and what you brought here, and it was your efforts that allowed this. So I would continue the support. That's all I have to say. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
No, Chair.
Yeah, another one for John. What assurances, are we approving the site plan? Is petitioner locked into the site plan?
Vice Chair, Commissioner, the building is not changing exterior. So while there is technically a site plan, the site plan is the existing building. All the changes are on the interior, and they're requesting up to 5 residential units. They've got 4 currently, and so their one change is going to be to take 2 suites upstairs and convert them into 1. If they decide to just do something different than that, so they still end up with 5 dwelling units, they can do that with the approval, but they can't get 6.
So if somebody came along and said, I want these 2 units in the back, petitioner by right could put 2 residential units in the front on the avenue.
No, because it is specific also to that regard, that it's just 2 downstairs, and the 3 upstairs, and maintaining
Have to be
they have to be in the back.
in the back.
Yes, they do.
There's no wiggle room there
No.
to change.
No.
Yeah. All right, I want to, I'm concerned about the density, but we've already made that exception in town across the street. So, I mean, it's hard to say that I want to stick to our ordinances when right across the street they've already made. They're already at 45 units an acre, right?
Yes.
And I don't like making the exception for not having covered parking back there, but I'm willing to go along with the commission. I'm not, I'm not going to stand alone on that hill. So, but that's where I'm at. As long as he can't change the location of the residential units to on the avenue.
That's correct.
Commissioner?
John, just so I understand, the parking situation, is there overnight parking allowed in that Plat 208 or not?
Vice Chair, Commissioner, again, that gets a little bit outside my specific knowledge to comment on very far, but it's my understanding in my discussions with the Plat 208 representatives that their, I'll say bylaws, whatever documents they have, do not allow for overnight parking. They are already allowing overnight parking as a reality with other uses, and they're working with that and understanding how they need to adjust their regulations to provide for it.
So there are some discussions still going on.
Yes.
As far as the density is concerned, I have no problem at all whether it turned out to be 50 units, 60 units. I mean, because of the building, the design itself, I'll choose design over density. I think it's a great project. I really do. I just didn't want to get into a kind of a slippery slope with this parking, and all of a sudden, this becomes a huge issue for his buyers or his renters or whoever, because the bylaws now are going to be enforced. So I guess there's risk there, but that's going to be his risk.
Correct.
Okay. And John, just to be clear, the notion that this would be a domino effect going down the avenue from one retail operations to the next, to the next, to the next, isn't really valid. It's only the retail has to stay on the bottom, residential can be on the top, and in this particular case, because of the uniqueness of the property with the residential being in the back as well as on the top, is why we're considering, but it won't have a domino effect in the future. Any one of those would have to come back to the planning and zoning for approval, and the likelihood of us approving that, Commissioner Kovacetic's point, would be remote, if anything. So am I clear on that?
Vice Chair, maybe I'll say it a little bit differently. So maybe it's the mouse going to work here. So you are going to potentially be seeing sometime in the next few months, the mouse went away again, there it's back, a request for this property for some ground floor commercial and 2 floors of residential above.
But that's by right.
No, it's going to exceed the density allowance again. The density currently is set at 8 units per acre. That's really only 1 unit in any of these 6,000 square foot lots. And so we've approved other SUPs along here for that because you exceed that 8 units very quickly. And so you probably will see more of these. And so Plat 208 again is supportive of bringing in the residential because they see the need for the overall balance. And residential, the parking demand for residential is actually less than the commercial. So it balances in that regard. It's kind of the question though of where is that in relationship to the units. That's what kind of becomes the question over time compared to what you would normally see in a development that started with the idea it's going to have that mix and how it would work out.
But we're still not setting a precedent to put residential on the avenue. And
No, right. As far as ground floor facing the avenue, no, we're absolutely not doing that and have no intent to do that ground floor on the avenue.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
All right, I will make a motion to approve special use permit to allow residential use on property located at 16622 East Avenue, The Fountains.
Second. Second.
Second.
Okay. Paula, would you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner Corey,
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Aye.
Commissioner Schlossberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Sevum,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Watts,
Aye.
5-0.
Okay. I think you're up again, John. So, Item number 5, consideration and possible action to rezone approximately 0.69 acres located at 15225 North Fountain Hills Boulevard, northeast corner of Fountain Hills Boulevard and Glenbrook Boulevard, from C1 Neighborhood Commercial and Professional Zoning District to C2 Intermediate Commercial Zoning District. All yours. That's a mouthful.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As stated, we're looking at property that's at the northeast corner of Glenbrook and Fountain Hills Boulevard. This property was Plat 430, platted in 1972. First buildings in this area were built in the early 1980s, and there's been really no additional development within this area since 2006. It's a corner lot of the overall development that's proposing the rezoning from the C1 to the C2. The rest of the Plat 430 would stay in the C1 zoning district. And here is the zoning map that shows the area. And so again, the subject property, the C1 surrounding it, and you can see the variety of other zoning districts in the area. CC to the south, residential to the west and the east. And the land uses in the area, there's an existing building on the property that has had a variety of uses in it over the years. Has been vacant a number of times. The current use of this building is the golf cart business, some restaurants, daycare, churches surrounding the property, then again residential a little further out. Rezoning is a request at this point. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit with the next item on your agenda, but these do need to be considered separately. There is the golf cart business that's in operation in the building. Has been there for a year, more or less. One of the challenges that he's had is in order to attract attention to his business, he likes to put the golf carts out in the parking lot. The C1 zoning district does not allow outdoor display of this nature. In order to have the carts outside, he needs the C2 zoning and then get approval of the special use permit. So that's the reason for the request for the rezoning. And so as we look at the current zoning district, the C1, you can see what its intent is and highlighted kind of the key intent of the C1 zoning district here. And then the C2 zoning district that's being requested is a step up in terms of the intensity, the nature of uses, and what its intent is within the community. I included in your report a full list of the types of uses that get added when we move from C1 to C2. And the thing that the Commission needs to remember, we have the existing use that's there today and the request to continue that use, but once the property is rezoned, and it's more than just the suite that he is operating in that get rezoned, that the golf cart business could go away and any of these other uses come in. And so that's what you need to consider. It's not the use that's there today, but the things that can happen in the proposed zoning district. So again, this is a partial list. A complete list was in your staff report of the types of things that now get introduced and would be allowed in the area. That's not only some of the uses themselves, but you'll recall in the C1 zoning district, to operate after 11 p.m. or before 7 a.m. requires a special use permit. And in the C1 district, you can't have the outdoor patios and some of those uses, drive-through windows, without a special use permit. Those things would all become uses and activities by right in the C2. Oops, I hit the wrong direction. And so as we look at the general plan for this area, it's in a mixed neighborhood designation. So primarily residential, but it anticipates that there can be some commercial type uses, as well as other, churches, parks, and those types of things. When we look at this specific location, the general plan has the statements here about these small commercial areas that we have that are within neighborhoods. They need to remain low density, and that they would be things that would support the residential area that surrounds it. So the review and analysis here, the general plan again recommends that this area stay a low intensity commercial area. Redevelopment and infill would need to protect the existing neighborhood. On the one hand, the C2 will increase the allowed uses in the area, some of which you may find are not necessarily compatible with the area. But on the other hand, it has been a struggling center to maintain tenants. By rezoning to C2 and opening up the number of tenants that could go in the building, it may be a more successful center because it could attract tenants it's not able to attract today. They did hold their citizen participation meeting. They did not have anyone attend. Staff has not had any contacts either for or against this from any of the surrounding property owners. Staff does, however, recommend denial of this request. We feel that the change in intensity in this location would not be appropriate for the surrounding neighborhood and would not be consistent with the direction of the general plan. Any questions you have about the rezoning portion of this?
Commissioners? Commissioner Corey?
Yes. All right, thank you, John. So this basically came to light because the owners of the golf cart store are looking to put their golf carts out front on display for sale. That's why we kind of have both of these items here, right?
Correct.
Because do we either approve a special use permit, discuss that, or do the rezone? That's why this is here, right?
Vice Chair, Commissioner, they need the rezone before you can consider the use permit. It's not either or. They have to rezone because the C1 zoning district does not allow the outdoor display even with the use permit.
C1 does not allow the outdoor display, okay.
Right.
Okay, even though, all right, I did drive by here earlier today as well, and I see a couple of golf carts out there, and to me, it's a parking lot. And if there weren't golf carts in the parking lot, there would be cars in the parking lot. So I think that I would like to talk about the special use permit and how we could help them with allowing them to have some sort of thing on display to help them with the sales. Just driving by and seeing those 3 golf carts that are out there, it didn't seem to me like it was detrimental to the neighborhood, but I think rezoning it to C2, like you guys recommended, would be a major change that would be too impactful to the residential areas around it. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Commissioner Kovacevic?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Corey. I think we want to help the business owner in any way we can. Could you bring back up the slide on the uses?
Let's see, which way is that? This one?
Well, yeah, and the substance abuse or addiction treatment, doesn't that have a distance it has to be away from a school or a church?
No, not this one, I don't believe. I'll look at it real quick and see, but I don't believe this one does. There are other aspects of that does have the separation requirements. Well, I can look that up here in a minute if you want to ask other questions.
And I know you had like rifle range, members only rifle ranges and stuff. Doesn't that have to be so many feet away from a school or a church?
No.
Especially a school.
I think it was a
I don't
distance
believe we had that on the rifle range, the indoor gun ranges.
You have another question?
Let's see. The only separation requirement is for a substance abuse treatment center is 2,000 feet from any other detox substance abuse center. Does not have a separation from churches or schools or anything like that.
So can we, what other means can we use to help the business owner?
The only other option really in this case would be an amendment to the zoning ordinance so that we allow the outdoor display in the C1.
And what's that take?
Well, that takes similar process to any zoning to come up with the amendment advertise it, process it through P&Z and council, get their approval.
I'm going to pass for now.
Go ahead, Commissioner Corey.
On that note, could it be a special permit for this one business where if the business changed hands to a different type of business, it wouldn't roll over? It seems to be very specific to what they're looking to do.
So, Vice Chair, Commissioner Corey, are you talking about in terms of if we were to amend the ordinance and what it would allow for?
Yes.
We could make that as specific or broad as we would decide to make it at the time. But it would be, for example, if we were to say golf carts can be displayed, then anybody selling golf carts could display them in the C1 zoning district anywhere.
Okay. The easier we can make this, the better off we'll be.
Commissioner Schlossberg.
Yeah, and I think you're on the right track there. So how many golf carts would be out there at one time? I mean, is there any?
So if we want maybe to jump ahead again briefly to the second request, and staff agrees, the golf cart business there, except for the issue we've had about him displaying, we have no issues with it and don't see it having a negative impact. And so we're supportive of the use permit if we get to that point. But when I look at the technical requirements of the ordinance in terms of the number of parking spaces required for the building size and the use of the building, and put that against the number of available parking spaces, I see one space being available for display based on the required parking. So that would potentially be part of a text amendment that would also then, if it's golf carts, adjust the parking requirement a little bit so that that was a bit more reasonable in this case.
Commissioner Kovacic.
Can we bring up the site plan?
It's not a very detailed site plan because, again, they're
Yeah. No, I get that, but I don't have a very detailed question. Is there's a parking lot behind the building that is,
talking about this parking lot
yeah.
to the east. So if
Do they have any rights to that?
no.
Okay. That's my question.
Commissioner Sam.
Are the owners here?
Yes. Applicant's here, yes.
I'm just curious about the business, the way it's conducted. Are most of your customers at wholesale
So
or?
would you like me to, would you like,
Commissioner, we'll call the applicant up when we're done with John.
Oh, never mind.
John, I'm going to go down a different rabbit hole. That property has had jazzercise, martial arts, numerous restaurants, all that I believe in total exceeded the parking requirement, and I'm not sure how they did that. So that's one. So I'm more of an advocate for supporting the conversion from C1 to C2. And my question really then goes to the second part, the SUP. That SUP stays with the owner of the building or with the applicant if we were to approve it?
Vice Chair, once it's approved and established, in this case it's already established because the business is there, then it runs with the land.
With the land. So the owner of the building would have to change ownership to lose the SUP.
So the owner of the business would have to shut down for a period of time, I think it's 6 months, and then the SUP would be lost and a new owner would have to reestablish it. But this owner of the golf cart could sell to a different golf cart business and they could just continue right on with operation.
But my understanding also is that the e-bike shop and the golf cart shop have co-owners, so to speak. There is an owner's interest in both. Are we taking into account only the footprint for the golf cart, or are we taking into account the joint ownership between the e-bikes? So I would assume that if the golf carts were allowed out, the e-bikes would want to be out more in the public's eye as well.
So, Vice Chair, some of that's a better question for the applicant. I believe it is the case that the suites involved here, 3, 4, and 5, are combined and used for both the e-bikes and the golf cart. We don't, because the e-bikes are a smaller type of vehicle, they're not specifically covered at this time in the zoning ordinance in terms of display or not display. And so if they want to put their e-bikes out to a limited degree, that's fine. Depends on how they're, again, impacting parking or circulation in some way, but
They're on the patio, the covered area.
yeah, so that's,
So, but I still have a hard time understanding, we've put restaurants in there, and restaurants have packed that entire parking lot, and they've only been a small portion of the entire strip. And we didn't seem to have the same angst about parking spaces. And now we're saying they could only put one golf cart out because of the parking spaces. How can we accommodate the C2 so that they can have more than one cart out? And again, in the spirit of helping the business owner, as well as meeting the parking. How can we do that?
Chair or Vice Chair, again, I think that would be, if we go the route of a text amendment to allow for display in the C1, we would also need to look at the parking requirements and divide out maybe golf carts from other types of vehicle parking requirements, vehicle dealership parking requirements, because that's what we're applying right now. That's all we have. And that requires a higher level of parking than just the typical retail commercial. It's less than restaurants. So again, I don't know what they did back in the 80s or whenever this was developed in terms of their parking requirements then. That maybe it is underparked, but for just a standard 1 per 250 square foot strip commercial center, this is adequately parked.
Well, what's the easier way to go? To amend C1 or to move to C2, make a motion to move to C2, and then have an amendment to that motion that says we can exceed the parking requirements as they're stipulated for C2 today?
I don't believe this commission has the authority to do that. That would, again, it's either text amendment or variance by the Board of Adjustment to a standard of the ordinance.
Okay. Commissioner Kovacevic?
How long would a text amendment take?
Well,
What's the shortest timeline?
a shortest timeline would be to have it back to you at your November meeting and to council in December. That would be the shortest. Is that possible? Maybe. I'd have to look at a calendar. We do have other things on our plate to be working on, but still it can be done in a matter of 4 to 6 months, I would think, at the outside.
Yeah, but 6 months, then we've kind of blown the whole season. So that's not good. I mean, again, in the interest of state, I don't like going to C2 and allowing those uses across the street from churches and schools. I don't like that. I want to help the business owner. I want to go the route of C1 with a text amendment, allowing outdoor parking for the vehicles. But I hate to blow 6 months. So anything we can do to accelerate that timeline, I really would urge. So.
Commissioner, why don't we talk to the applicant and see if they can accommodate that? Evening.
Good evening. Paula Richards on behalf of Fountain Hills Golf Carts. So I had a statement to read, but you guys have essentially expressed everything that I had in my statement of how essentially the ordinances wouldn't allow us under a C1 to apply for a special use permit, and that C2 was a pretty intense use for what we're looking to do. For just basically displaying golf carts during business hours. It's not to basically create an automobile lot to have them 24 hours a day there. It's really just to be out there during business hours.
And we're only looking to put 4 to 5 vehicles outside in addition to, just to make it look like we're busy. My normal customer base is 3 to 4 customers on a given day. So I got 39 spaces open, 36 are empty. So.
Yeah. There hasn't been any other tenants in this particular location. He occupies 3 of the suites and has just started with the e-bikes as part of Fountain Hills Golf Carts. As you guys probably know, there was a bike shop that's been there for many, many, many years. And, you know, they were allowed to display their e-bikes out in front. They were allowed to wash vehicles. They were allowed to do maintenance on their bicycles. They even had people actually staying in the parking lot while they would go, you know, ride down to McDowell Mountain Park. So we're really essentially asking for some of the same kind of luxury of being able to display golf carts during business hours. And, you know, we haven't had anybody in the community that has objected to it. I actually went within that 300-foot radius and actually spoke to people at the churches and the other businesses around, and nobody seemed to have a problem with allowing us to display those golf carts.
I've donated golf carts to the churches, to the schools.
You know,
so
to many events within the
we
town
get along with everybody
and the high
pretty
school
well.
for homecoming every year. So, so we love this community, and we want to be a part, continue to be a part of this community and raise revenue for this community. We are also residents of this community, and we live about a mile away, but
Most of my customers come from Rio Verde,
Trilogy.
Trilogy, so they drive right by.
right, so it's
I just
perfect.
wanted to see that I'm open, that's it.
Yeah.
Commissioner
Yeah.
Corey, do you have a question?
It was for John.
Oh,
Yeah, I have a question
Mr.
for you.
Kucinich, go ahead.
What percentage of your sales come January, February, March, April?
What's that?
The percentage of sales, basically starting right about now through about May, 100% of the sales happen now.
Okay.
In the season. Obviously, when the weather's great, when people are here, especially from that area of Rio Verde, Tonto Verde, and Trilogy that is growing so much, they come here, right? They come here to shop. They come here, you know, to buy golf carts for that community that they live in.
A few of you guys were by the store today. There's 30 golf carts inside there. Nobody knows that. Nobody can tell. They can't see it.
Yeah.
They have no idea. They come by and they get, if they do get to the door, they get in and they go, had no idea. Had no idea. So we just want to give them a little sample to get them in the door. You know, and we realize, you know, the selling needs to be in the store, and it will be. So I'm just trying to attract a little of the attention that goes by my shop every day.
So John, a question for you. Is there another mechanism that we can use to address something like a variance for C1 that we could expedite in some manner or get it in front of town council so they could approve it? Or an alternate mechanism that you know of?
Vice Chair, no, not really. I think if there was one, we would have tried to use that because, as I said earlier, we see no specific problems with the business, so we're supportive of it being there too. But we had no way of getting there in the current code except for this way that's being proposed.
So we're left with, we have to move to C2 in order to get
The special use permit,
the special use
be
permit to
outside.
allow for it.
yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Corey?
Yes, now that John's up here. Thank you so much. John, what prompted us to pull this out and have to look at this? Because I drove by today and I think there's a couple, maybe 3 golf carts that are out there on display right now. 1 in the front and then 2 kind of closer to like the entrance of the doors. So you don't notice them that much.
So, Vice Chair, Commissioner, don't need to belabor this point, but we have issued several notice of violations and citations to the property owner to address the issue of the vehicles being parked outside, and that's part of what prompted him to make the application.
I see.
Code enforcement, yeah. That was my question. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, any other Commissioner Sven?
And this is a problem because it's their product and not their vehicles that they drive back and forth to work?
Yes, it's display of vehicles for sale in the parking lot.
Is
It's
there
not
a
allowed.
time limit that they could be parked outside?
Not under the current code.
Pardon?
Not under the current code.
Okay, zero time.
Correct. Correct.
Commissioner Corey?
So I'm just thinking back to how you have them arranged right now. There's one on the parking lot, and then there's two, I think, that are maybe like on the sidewalk by the door. So given that the bike shop was there for so many years with the bikes on the sidewalk, is that something that's kind of grandfathered into that area where they could display the golf cart? It's not a car, it's smaller, so it can kind of fit up there the way the other two are. Is that okay in the current code?
No.
No. So why is that?
Again, the code is specific about vehicle sales in C1 that no display or sales can take place outside. It has to be inside the enclosed building. We don't have a similar provision for bikes. But it's very specific about the vehicles.
Vehicles.
Yes.
Okay, where the golf cart is, it's kind of like a gray area now because you've got bikes and now they're e-bikes, and you've got golf carts and now they could be electric golf carts, and they kind of blending together a little bit. So I could see how that could get a little interesting. I also just want to try to make this an easy way to help them. I feel like we're making it kind of cumbersome with rezoning and changing the entire structure of that whole plat just to try to help them with this. I wish that, you know, just like Kovacevic was saying, if we can maybe give them a temporary approval for now that's not in violation while we work through some sort of a text amendment to help them out. I think that that's something we should look at.
I don't think it's in our purview. John, maybe you could help me understand one more thing. If, in fact, when the bicycle shop was there and they did, I've seen it, trailers, cars, bikes all over the place out there. They utilize the parking lot extensively. Is it the code enforcement wasn't as rigorous as they are today? Or did the zoning ordinances change?
Vice Chair Watts, I'm not sure I can answer that very specifically. We have gotten more proactive with our code enforcement than we were a few years ago when we just had one officer, and now we have the 2.5, and so they are a little bit more active. Without seeing this, I'm hearing a little bit about these other uses and activities. Were they violations of the code? I don't have enough information to say if they were or were not.
Well, I can tell you, being a resident for 37 years, I have seen the changes come and go at that place. And sometimes the restaurant areas or the exercise facilities were packed. The parking lots were packed, and it clearly would have exceeded any parking requirement. And the example of the bicycle shop, where they hosted people and their vehicles for days when they had their races and so on. I'm just trying to figure out, if this is the only way we can go, is go from C1 to C2 and then a special use permit, is that it? Or do we have to give it back to council and say, we need to write a text amendment to the ordinance somehow? We have one or two choices, it sounds like.
Right. And so what I'm imagining the commission may do, don't want to jump too far ahead, but I'm hearing concern about the rezone to C2, and so I could imagine your motion may be to deny, but at the same time recommend to council that they direct staff to prepare a text amendment to allow the use in C1.
Commissioner Kovacevic.
Yeah, let's go down that route for a minute. If we make that recommendation to deny C2 and recommend to council that they allow a text amendment to allow the use in C1, then council would hear that when?
That's on their schedule currently for the November 19th meeting.
And if they approve it, do they still have to come back with the text amendment, or is we done?
So again, what I can anticipate is hearing the concerns of the commission and anticipating what council might do, is that anticipating that they would give staff that direction. I could, in the meantime, be preparing an amendment. So if they do give me that direction in November, I could be here in December with that amendment, and then we're to council in January.
January's better than March. And then if we decide to approve C2 and it would go to council in November?
Correct.
And can I ask petitioner, how bad does it hurt you to wait 60 days? Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm in favor of, let's stay with C1 and recommend the text amendment. And let's go down that route. I just don't
Hang on,
want those uses.
Commissioner Salisbury has something to say
Okay.
before we make
Wait,
a
just
motion.
one other question.
I didn't make a motion.
Back to, no, he didn't make a motion. Back to the C2, assuming we went the C2 route. Are you telling me that once we do the C2, that someone wants to come in and open a drug treatment facility right next door to the golf cart store, that they're free to do that without any approval? It's not going to come to us, it's not going to go
That's correct.
to council? Okay.
Commissioners, any other questions? That last one was a little bit of a bomb. No more comments? Commissioners, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that
Chair,
we-
excuse me,
Whoop.
Chair, we have comments from the
Sorry, we
public.
missed speaker cards.
Yeah. So Paulo Richards filled out one. You're good, okay.
All right.
Okay, the next speaker, last one would be Larry Myers.
I spent years trying to keep these places from getting rezoned so it could be detox centers. You recommend this place to get rezoned to C2, I'll bring holy hell down on you, including the next council. I swear to God, I will do it. First of all, Wilson Ejim already bought up 5 parcels with that intent, just a little bit down this way on that map. So don't tell me what can and can't be done in a C2. That thing needs to say C1 because, having been here for 43 years, that shopping center out there was intended to service all those people in the El Pueblo district and the state trust land if it ever got developed into affordable, more tract home. So now you're going to intensify what was designed to be non-intensive and allow a use in that was never even presupposed in the 80s. I mean, a detox center in Fountain Hills? Holy smokes, who would have thunk it? So I got a suggestion for you. How about this variance? Put your golf carts out there. I think the guy should be able to sell his golf carts. For crying out loud, that parking lot's empty. How about if code enforcement goes like this? And remembering, we had a political ribbon in this town in 2018, and what did we do? We went like this. And nobody fought over it, and nobody was damaged by it, and people lived in harmony because we weren't so stuck to the code that is not practical for solutions, not here, here. You rezone that C2, looking here for a golf cart, I guarantee you you'll end up with a detox hospital or something else that's undesirable for that particular location as a C2 instead of C1. But you know how much time we spent trying to confine that particular application. You want to throw all that away? Because I got news for you. Grady Miller wanted to put it out on that end of town. I know it for a fact. And he was talking to Dr. Wilson Ejim about doing it. And that's why I've been suspicious of everything that gets built out there when there's a change in the zoning, because you can't do it the way the zoning is now, but if you change the zoning, you'll be changing the opportunity for it to happen, and he'll be selling golf carts next to drug addicts. Go over to West Cactus, see what those businesses endure
when that happens next door to their business. They move, and then the plaza's empty again. So I'm dead set against changing the zoning to C2. Figure out another way, and here's the quickest, easiest way. You don't even have to ask permission. All you have to do is ask John to go like this. And then people drive by and buy golf carts. And the town collects the sales tax revenue. That's my quick, simple solution, but changing it to C2, my antennas are up, and they're not going down until this issue is completely settled and it stays C1. And the lights, are we lighting the parking lot to display the golf carts? Because drive by on Colony and Saguaro at night, the middle of the night. We're a dark sky community. It's brighter than day. So those issues sort of cause my antennas to go up. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. So, Commissioner, aside from the impassioned speech, I think I am in support of denying at a very personal level and doing a text amendment. Thank you. Thank you, Paula. And doing it and pushing it back to council to do a text amendment to get them the variance that, and I'm calling it a variance, I don't know if that's the mechanical name for it or not. So if I can get a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we deny the petition for C2 zoning and recommend, John, we're recommending council to send it back to us or council to direct staff to prepare a text amendment to allow golf cart display in C1.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Paula?
Second, and just one comment, just, you know, what Larry was saying, kind of turning a blind eye to this. I just wanted to remind us, so given that they return the carts at night, I mean, you bring them inside the building, right? So we're saying that we don't allow the car sales, cars would be out all night long, but given that these are the golf carts and they go in at night, does that give us a little bit of leniency in allowing them to continue this while we're preparing the text amendment?
Vice Chair, Commissioner Watts, the code says, Commissioner Corey, the code says no outdoor display. That's all I can say.
Right.
Just thought I'd throw it out there. All right.
Commissioner Svem?
Are there other types of product we should be including with this text amendment, like electric bikes, or besides just, or is this going to be specific to golf carts?
Again, Vice Chair Watts, Commissioner, I've had the few minutes we're here talking about it to think about what all it might encompass. To keep it simple and get it through quickly, I guess I'm done.
Sorry.
To keep it simple and get it done quickly, the easy thing will be to limit it to golf carts. But as we do that, if there's some easy way to widen that out a little bit without making it complicated, we can consider that.
I didn't really know whether or not they had other product besides the golf carts. I thought there was somebody said e-bikes.
Yeah.
John has already said that it is okay to display the e-bikes. The golf cart or the other bike store has been doing it for years.
Okay, so I did hear it right. So if that should be added, perhaps it should be added, I don't know, so.
John, what's the fine
Starts at $750
per?
violation.
Commissioner Kovacevic, did you have another question? Apparently not. Paula, can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Corey,
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Aye.
Commissioner Schlossberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Sevim,
Aye.
Vice Chair Watts,
Aye.
5-0.
So John, before you run off, does that actually negate the next topic?
For you, commissioners, no, it does not, because when it gets to council, they may decide to approve the C2, and so they would need your recommendation on the special use permit, whether you're for it or against it. I think we could pretty much almost cut right to a motion on it if you'd like.
think so too.
I'll make a motion that we deny the, what was it, special use permit?
Commissioner, I would think you'd want to go ahead and recommend approval of it,
Oh, recommend approval.
because
of
you're
special use.
supportive of it, right?
Okay,
And
yeah,
so
we
you
want
recommend
the
approval,
special.
so in case the council should choose to approve the rezoning, then they've got your recommendation
Yeah,
to
then,
approve the
okay,
special
I
use permit.
recommend that we, or I'll make a motion that we approve the special use permit.
Second.
I'm confused again. Nothing new. So if council approves it going from C1 to C2,
Yes.
we've opened Pandora's box,
That's true.
okay? And don't we just throw another obstacle up there if we deny the SUP at this point? So they would have to approve both, and the owners would be on council, not on us. Because I don't want to be any part of converting from C1 to C2.
Right.
So I would be cautious of approving just to be safe.
So,
But we make a recommendation to approve or deny. Council's gonna do whatever it wants to do.
That's why I would say deny.
That's why I originally thought deny.
Well, I think from our perspective, if we don't want any involvement to go from C1 to C2, then I want to make it as challenging as possible to have that occur.
I can see both. I can see John's side.
I understand what he's saying, but I'm saying I don't want to make it easy. They've trumped on us before. So. Oh, we have a speaker card for the, I should have known.
Sorry about that. We have one speaker card. It's for Larry Myers.
I would recommend not approving the SUP because if you open the window a crack, the council will climb through it. They have in the past. They will maybe in the future, maybe not. Who knows? But why recommend approval of an SUP on zoning of a C2 if you're not recommending rezoning to C2? Just pass on the SUP part of it, go for the text amendment, look the other way so the man can sell some golf carts in the meantime, collect some sales tax revenue, and call it a day. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, do I have a motion? I think there's already a motion made, and I think we have to amend that. We have
We have a motion and a second.
Do we get a motion and a second for the SUP?
Yes.
What was
So then
it?
we have to, okay,
So we can discuss it, but
okay, we can just,
yeah, and I still, the agenda item reads, hold a public hearing, consideration, and possible action. A request for a special use permit to allow vehicle sales with outdoor display at 15225 North Fountain Hills Boulevard. That's what the agenda item says. And so we just recommended that for council to direct staff to allow, to do a text amendment to allow a special use permit in C1 zoning. This has nothing to do with rezoning from C1 to C2, and we're going to be faced with this special use permit once we get the text amendment. The motion isn't going to change. So I mean, you know, it's just, council's going to do what it's going to do. We're going to approve a special use permit, whether we do it now or whether we do it, or we're going to make a recommendation to council to approve a special use permit. Whether we do it now or whether we do it in December, that's going to be our recommendation. So I don't see any reason to change the motion or to deny the motion in the second.
I do have a comment.
Go ahead, Commissioner Corey.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, however, the SUP is saying vehicle sales, and we're not asking for vehicle sales in our text amendment. The text amendment is specifically for golf cart sales. So it sounds to me like we want to reject the SUP the way that it's written in this case, because we're doing our text amendment differently, specifically for golf carts.
What did we move to do, Paula? Can you?
Dan Kovacevic made a motion to recommend approval to the council of the SUP. Clayton Corey seconded the motion.
But then there was discussion that we were confused as to exactly what we were approving there, right? So
That's where we're at.
yeah, we gotta fix that.
So the motion
Sorry,
can be
John.
withdrawn.
Yes, the motion could be withdrawn.
Okay.
If both parties agree. And so another thought comes to mind, and maybe that is that you recommend to council that they continue the discussion of the application for the special use permit pending the text amendment. Because as Commissioner Kovacevic mentioned a moment ago, it would likely then come back here for your consideration with the allowance now for the
Approval with
outdoor display in the C1.
Yeah.
So maybe that's
So like that, we
a
deny
better
it effectively.
recommendation.
Makes sense.
Okay,
So
say that.
Commissioner Kovacevic, are you going to stand by your motion or are you going to withdraw?
I don't know,
Or are
what,
you going to amend your motion?
I'll
I
amend
think
the
you have to
motion.
actually you have to withdraw it and then
All right,
represent and deny.
okay, I'll withdraw the motion.
The second agrees.
Second.
Okay. Now, make your motion.
Okay. I'm moving that we approve a special use permit to allow display of golf carts, right?
No.
No?
You're going to tie the special use permit back to the text amendment and make that part and parcel.
Somebody else make the motion.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. I will make a motion that we approve the SUP with the stipulation that we first look at, that staff will direct and prepare a text amendment to allow golf cart sales in the C1. Is that right?
I'm still, it's deny the SUP, but recommend that council consider it at the same time that they look at the text amendment. They do the heavy lifting on the SUP, and then it comes back to us for finalization. But right now, deny it. Don't open up that Pandora's box.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. We're changing it. I thought you said approve it, John.
My latest thought is to recommend a continuance, because the challenge we have is a denial at this point. Then that means they have to reapply versus just keeping it live by continuing it pending the council amending the ordinance, and then they can come back to you with the amended ordinance.
All right,
Okay.
I can make that
You
motion.
change from deny then to
Continue,
continue.
right, that's,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, I'll move that we continue agenda item 6, holding a public hearing consideration and possible action for the special use permit to allow vehicle sales with outdoor display.
We have a second?
Second.
Paula?
Commissioner Corey,
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Aye.
Commissioner Schlossberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Sevim,
Aye.
Vice Chair Watts.
Aye.
5-0.
Make sure you were ready.
No,
Okay.
It's item number 8.
Let's see, I think I forgot to
7.
change.
No, 7, here, appeals and variances. We got to do the zoning change first. Sorry about that. Item 7,
Oops.
the amending zoning ordinance 2.07 appeals and variances.
Yes. So, Chairman, Commissioners, as you know, we've been slowly working our way through Chapter 2 of the zoning ordinance, which is a procedures chapter, updating each of the sections to make them a little clearer, more consistent across the different sections, and address any issues we've had within those. You're on your last one. So you won't see any more of these after tonight if you make a recommendation on to council. The section you have this evening is section 207, appeals and variances. So this deals with items that are appealed to and from the Board of Adjustment, as well as requests for variances. And there are requirements in state statute that this has to follow. So in the ordinances as currently written, there's not a clear statement of overall purpose for variances and appeals, so that's the first change, to add a new section A, purpose. Again, this makes it consistent with how each of the other sections are laid out to have such a statement. And so then we kind of renumber a little bit from there. So section B then becomes the appeals to the Board of Adjustment. Just as a note, in the 5+ years I've been here, we've had no appeals to the Board of Adjustment. And I haven't looked back, but I'm not aware of any that have ever taken place. Basically, appeals to the board are if I, in my role as zoning administrator, make some interpretation of the code or apply it in some way that somebody doesn't agree with, they can appeal that decision to the Board of Adjustment. That's what those are about. So a few changes in here. Mostly it's reorganization, and then again just some things to bring it up consistent with the other sections of the code. So we moved what was number 1 up to the letter B in the code, and then we amended and added the whole application process as we've done in the other sections, that we filed electronically. It needs a narrative statement and paying a fee. What was the existing 3 then becomes 2, stay of proceedings. So then we created new number 3, which is review, which is, again, similar to what we've done in the other sections. We get the application in, we check it for completeness, and once it's complete, then we can schedule it for the hearings. What was existing 4 is has some minor modifications, and the first sentence of that was moved up to number 3. Then there's a new number 5 on the hearings, which was, again, mostly just a slight reorganization of some of the existing language. And what was number 6 moves to 5B in that list. So again, mostly just some reorganizations of existing language. Then section C of this section is about variances. We've had 6 variance applications in the last 5 years. We haven't had a Board of Adjustment meeting in a year. Y'all get a lot more work if you want to be a little easier. Anyway, so again, mostly some reorganization for clarity and adding in the standard application review steps. So number 1 provides a little bit more purpose for this section. Number 2 is the application requirements, again, similar to the other ones, electronically and so forth, all those things. Number 3 as the review section. Again, we've tried to get all these sections consistent in what they say in the same order. So review, again, similar to what we've done in the other chapters. We're going to review it for completeness, work back and forth if you're missing anything. Once it's complete, then we start scheduling for the hearings. Section 4 is notice. It was part of number 2 in the current ordinance. And then number 5 is on hearing. It's just a reorganization of the language from the current code. Here's the main piece that we were wanting to address in this whole section, is what's required for consideration and approval of the variance. In the current code, these requirements are scattered through different parts and portions of the ordinance. And it's caused confusion when we have been at the Board of Adjustment about what are the requirements and how many of those do you have to meet and so forth. So we've been able to organize them into one specific location in the code and make it clear that you have to meet all of these standards, starting with the first one and going through the last in order to be considered for approval of a variance. And then finally also a requirement that you can't look at what's going on around you in terms of granting a variance. Then the existing number 4 was changed to 7, action. It lists action that can be taken by the board. Similar to what we've talked about with other cases, the variance granted is non-transferable. It goes with the person who applied for it until it gets established. But once it's established, then it does run with the land. And then the last one, the existing 5 and 7 that were in the code were relocated into other parts of that section. And the final section of 207 is number D, that's appeals from the Board of Adjustment. So if somebody's not happy with what the Board of Adjustment does, it goes to Superior Court. It doesn't come to council. And so that's different than anything else. And so there are no changes here. I think there's one word we clarified, but other than that, there were no changes in this particular section. Any questions about the modifications proposed to section 207 of the zoning ordinance?
Commissioners, questions?
Just one thing, John. There was a change in the timeline that somebody would have to submit their oh God, it's late, the appeal, thank you. Was it 30 days and we cut it back to 15 days? Is that correct? And is there any concern that that would be too restrictive? And
Let me get that up here.
I thought I saw that we just cut that back in half.
I saw it too.
Okay. Just want to make sure that doesn't present any issues, like has 30 days been working fine, and now we're cutting it to 15 for what reason?
That's on the appeal to the Board of Adjustment?
Yes.
And so, so I don't, so in B1A is where I'm seeing the 15 days.
No, I think it's on page 5. D, 7D. Maybe I'm not looking at that right.
So appeals from the board are 30 days. Appeals to the board are 15 days.
Okay. We didn't change it, we were just
No.
specifying the differences. Okay, maybe I read that wrong then. Okay, then I don't have any concern with that. I thought we were cutting that.
I don't think so. I'm looking through here to, it's been a little while since I've worked some of that language, so I'm just checking to make sure I'm not forgetting, but I'm not seeing that.
Okay. Okay, I did a control F on 15 also to see if there was relationship between 15 and 30, and I'm not seeing it, so maybe I did misread that. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
John, just a couple of minor, is there a reason we don't have a definitive amount of time following notice requirements? The appeal will be scheduled for a hearing by the Board of Adjustments at the next available meeting. 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, there's nothing definitive. That's a bit ambiguous.
I think, again, that's similar to what we've done in the other ones. I can double check and adjust that if necessary, but the board meets we haven't met in so long, the third Thursday of the month? Yes. Third Thursday of each month, so.
Oh, it does, but.
Yes, if they have something to meet about. And so it's a published meeting date that's out there, so based on notice requirements, it gets put on the next available one.
And is there a reason that we're going to waive the fees for the town, school district, special purpose, et cetera, and we say we may be waived, or they are going to be waived? How do we determine that?
We like to, I guess, leave that little bit of wiggle room in there. I don't know why they wouldn't ever be waived, but if you say they are, and then if there's some reason they shouldn't be in a given case, then you have no choice.
Have we ever waived them?
For other governmental jurisdictions, they usually do get waived.
But, I mean, there's a lot of entities in that state, in that sentence. So do we waive them all the time?
We haven't had any such applications for me to say what we've always done.
Okay. And then the electronic filing again, very much like the permitting process. I'm not sure that people that are going to appeal the processes are necessarily going to be computer literate, internet illiterate. We don't have an alternate means in there for those people that are not versed as far as electronic filings. Should we?
Chairman, I don't believe so, for a couple of reasons. Worst case, we'll submit it for them electronically, because it's got to get in there. That's the only way we can track it. But usually if somebody is going to this level of appeal, they've got an attorney involved, and that attorney is going to figure out how to get it to happen.
Should we at least say in that sentence somewhere that if unable, staff will complete the form for you?
We haven't done that in any of the other sections, and this is the last one.
Okay.
May I speak as a staff member? We're always there to assist people. They call constantly and ask if they can't apply online, they'll come in, or we'll work with them over the phone. We're available to assist them if they can't do it themselves.
Yeah, I've seen other organizations where there's a terminal out in the lobby area where somebody can help them. We don't have that today, so we don't have somebody can look over their shoulder and help them work through that unless they do it, and unless you allow them into the office areas.
No, we just do it over the counter.
You just do it for them? Okay.
Just do it right over the counter. If they're at that point where they can't use the computer, they're not going to be able, they'll take them forever to do it with
Right.
us looking over their shoulder. So we do it for them.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, John. Any other questions, commissioners? Do I have a motion to approve? All right, Commissioner Corey.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the amending zoning ordinance section 2.07, appeals and variances.
I'll second.
Paula, roll call, please.
Commissioner Corey,
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Aye.
Commissioner Schlossberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Sevim,
Aye.
Vice Chair Watts,
Aye.
5-0.
All right, John, I think I got this one right. Number 8, and you're still up. These paper clips get in my way.
I got to figure this out with Farhad sometime while I'm not here and he's sitting over there. Chairman, not much. Appreciate the good discussion we had this evening. As far as November, because of Veterans Day, which would be the second Monday of the month, if we have a meeting, it will be moved back a week to the 18th of November. And right now, we have a possibility of a couple of additional special use permits for that particular meeting. They're not for sure yet, so we'll let you know once we determine if we'll actually have that. If not, we won't see you till December.
Okay. And number 9, commissioners, any request for staff? Commissioner Corey.
Thank you.
You gotta look this way once in a while.
I did have 2 things. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you, Paula, for providing the PowerPoint presentation. It was very helpful. Thank you, John. Just being able to see that breakdown, the summary was, it really helped tie the agenda together. So I really do appreciate that. The second one is, I didn't see this on our weekly log. What's happening with the property next to Rainbow Donuts? Do we have any status on what's going on over there?
It's being redeveloped.
Seemed to have been sitting with nothing going on for quite a while.
Right, it did, but we've seen some activity again recently.
Okay.
We can't force them to work any faster than they can work, so they are
I don't even know
making progress.
what is it?
It's going to be a coffee, what's the word?
A coffee roaster, but also he has a sign business.
Right,
Okay.
a small
Thank you.
pastry shop.
All right.
Commissioner Kovacevic.
Yeah, I think we uncovered something tonight. We really should have a restriction on the addiction treatment centers and rifle ranges, and I can't even think of others, but there should be a distance from schools. And I think we need to amend the zoning ordinance to reflect that.
We can put that on our list.
Thank you.
I have nothing for a change. Okay, commissioners, I know you all want to hear this. We have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Done. You don't have to do roll call.